For this video, we're going to look at why solving for a variable is really important to know how to do. And so the example that we're giving here is the equation of a line. Notice that this equation right here is written in standard form. So what that means is you don't have the y by itself. When an equation is written into y equals mx plus b form, it makes it so much easier not only to graph, but to identify the slope and the y-intercept. Now, that is not the case in this because this y is not by itself, okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to solve for that y so that we can identify the slope and the y-intercept and be able to graph it. So let's do it. So I have 2x plus 3y is 15. All right, now my goal is to get this y by itself. So what I'm going to do first is subtract 2x on both sides. And by doing that, I'm left with 3y is equal to negative 2x plus 15. Okay, notice I put the x first, and that's because when you have y equals mx plus b, the x comes first. And then I still want to get this y by itself, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by 3, so every piece by 3. And when I do that, I get, I'm going to write it over here, y is equal to negative 2/3 x plus, and I leave it as a fraction because it doesn't divide nicely, but 15 over 3 divides nicely, and that gives me 5. So the first step is to be able to solve for y, get y by itself. Now once you have solved for y, notice it is in that form of y equals mx plus b, which is what we want, because now we can see that the negative 2/3 is our m, and the 5 is our b. Okay, so if they ask for slope and y-intercept, we can say that the slope, or m, which is your slope, is negative 2/3. And we can say that the y-intercept, which is your b value, is 5. Okay? So now if I want to graph this line, I need those two things to graph, and so I'm going to start with the y-intercept. And so the y-intercept is at 5, so that means on the y-axis I'm going to go up 5. So you always start at the origin, and you're going to count up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then my slope is negative 2/3. So remember, slope is the same thing as rise over run. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be starting here at the 5, and I'm going to count down 2, because there's a negative there, and then I'm going to go to the right 3. So down 2, right 3 gives me this point right here. Okay, now that's not the only way you could have done it. You could have put the negative on the bottom. So if you did that, that would be 2 over negative 3, which would mean that I go up 2 from that y-intercept and to the left 3. So you could have ended there. In any case, it doesn't matter which one. Just make sure you only have one negative. Okay, so it's either in the top or the bottom, not in both places. And there is my line. So make sure you know how to solve for a variable. In particular, when it comes to lines, get the y by itself so that you can find the slope and the y-intercept and then be able to graph it.